Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle video tutorial on Affinity Photo, and in this one, box blur filter. Box blur filter just creates a nice blurring effect based around a box design. Though it's not probably a three-dimensional box, though it's possible I guess. It's more obviously a rectangular or sort of flat shape. Anyway, that's not the point. Well, you can set it up to 100, you can just change that, and also you can use the actual document itself, so you can interactively move across, and you can push the slider up to 1024 if you use it that approach rather than here. But of course, you get a nice effect there. Click apply. That's it. However, where is it? Filters, blur, and box blur. You can see there, you can change that and apply. Well, what else can you do? Well, you can of course apply repeats. You can just go to filters and repeat it if you want. Also, you can go to a layer and you can fade box blur. So you can then fade it. You can see the fade there. You can also go to say to overlay, go to difference or exclusion, and you can see you can create some very interesting colourful designs by doing that with just a quick fade. What you can also do, you can duplicate a layer and you can use layers. So view, studio, and channels and layers. They're the key panels I'm going to be using here. Now you could also use macros if you want as well. There's macros in the studio menu there as well. And that means you can store what you've done, all the various things, and you can reapply it again and again. So now what you can do, you can duplicate that. So layer and duplicate. Just go down there. So you've duplicated that. You can see over here 2 layers. Now I'm going to resize just slightly. Don't have to, but I'm just going to resize it because what I want to do now is again apply obviously the box blur. And you can vary that, of course. You can go there. And what happens? It reduces, you can actually reduce it down to virtually nothing. You can just get a sort of blur up there. You can just go backwards and forwards or use these as well. So you can just create that. And of course, once you've done that, you can then hold down the Alt or Option key and duplicate the design. So you can create a very weird, smeary sort of design like that, multiple layers. I don't want that, of course. Also, what you can do, you can apply the effect. And once you've got that, of course, what you can do, you can resize it again. You can also use a layer and go down here, rasterize and trim. Doesn't actually seem to trim anything off there, even though it looks like it should do, but obviously not. So what you can then do is go to filters, and the reason I reduced its size a bit, because I want to do distort and deform, and I don't want to go over the edge. And what you can do, you can deform this design. You can see you can create some nice deformed design like that. Click apply. Just avoid going over the edge. That's the key thing. You don't want any sort of sharp bits on the edge. And then of course you can duplicate that. And you can see you can create a nice little design there. And of course it's just a layer, so you can go over there and you can go to effects, maybe add a bevel and emboss. You can see you can create some sort of 3D structure there and change the angle there. And you can see you can create some, that's nice. Nice abstract designs very quickly and easy, and again duplicate those. Okay, what you can do else, and I'm just going to go all the way back. Let's just go back, get rid of the, and I'm going to get rid of that layer as well. So back to the layer, one single layer, the original image. What you can also use is channels, and just go over here to composite red, and you can go to filters, and don't want that obviously, filter and box blur, and you can vary that, you can increase that, and then you can go to green, and you can go to filters, blur, and you don't want to use the same setting. What you want is a different setting, so just go like that, and maybe leave the blue totally untouched. Reset it, and you can see you get the end result like that. A slightly different, unusual, green smeared, sort of box blurred effect. And just get it back to what it was before. Reset it. I quite often forget to reset it, and I'm working in just the red channel. Not very effective. So what else can you do? Well, what you can do, you can use selections. So I'm just going to go over here to the selections, and I'm just going to use elliptical marquee. And now what I can do, I can go to filters. I can use repeat blur, just as good as anything. And you can see what happens, just applies it to that area. Of course, what you can do select and invert pixel selection. And then of course, just applies it so you can just obviously focus on that central object. All the rest around it has been blurred. And of course you can do slightly different ones. You've got selections here as well, select menu, as well as freehand selection. Just create a freehand, then go to add, So you can add another area there, another area, just different areas. I'm just doing this very random, but you could maybe choose certain parts that you particularly like an image, and then repeat box blur, and you can see that applied there. Also, what you can do, you can invert pixel selection, go to repeat box blur again. Obviously now it looks like the whole thing's been done. However, what you can do, layer and fade box blur, and then of course you can just go through, maybe use like difference or exclusion, maybe that one, and apply. And you can see you've got a completely different design simply by using a few selections and a few fades. Let's just go back now to those. What you can also do, you can go over here to maybe like the triangle tool, and any of these tools are okay. The shapes, they just create a shape, a vector shape. So triangle, and quickly add that. Well, what you can do, you can go to filters and obviously blur. Now you'll notice for some weird reason that one is not available at that point. Don't know why, but it doesn't convert it for you to things. So blur, and then down to box blur, and you can then get a really nice glow effect. So if you want a glow effect, that's a quick, easy way for a shape to create a glow effect. Apply. And you can still then of course duplicate that design, and so on and so on. Also you can do, let's just get rid of that, go over here, and now I could create lots of different text, but I'm just going to create something A, B. So very simple. And once you do that, you can go to filters again, repeats not available, but blur and box blur is. So then you can see if you've got it at a fairly maximum value, you can blur it out, you can make it completely vanish. And also you get quite a nice effect. You've got a slight subtle, so just, you can go backwards and forwards. You can just see, just about make it out. So there's the box blur there. And of course, again, what you could do if you want to, there's always the option of fade box blur over here. Maybe not so effective when it's black, but if you've got maybe a coloured design with your writing, then it's quite useful. Now I've got a quick macro. Let's just quickly do that. Quickly show you. View, studio, and macro. Macro is great if you want to record some stuff. Oh, didn't save it over there. So it's in the library, view, and studio and library. You can save your macros in your library if you want. And I created this contour one yesterday. I did a tutorial on that. And you can see, and I'm just going to quickly, don't worry about this, I'm just quickly just creating something a bit more dramatic with the letters. You don't have to do this, of course. It's not part really of the tutorial. But you can see now I've got a layer that's slightly more extended. You've got some text still there. But again, filters and blur, and again, box blur. And you can see you can create some interesting blurring effects there. And again, you can see, you can definitely see occasionally when you move it fast, you can see the box-like effect that's created. There's the box-like effect. You can just see it sort of very box. However, maybe it's just my imagination on that one. What you can also do, and let's just remove that. I'm just going to go to now create a selection again. I'm just going to create a very basic selection, rectangular selection, and I can go to a layer and new pattern layer from selection. And you can see this design here. Now I'm just going to go over here to the move tool, and I'm going to set that to mirror so you get a nicer design. You can see the design there. But what you can do, of course, you can apply your filter and blur and box blur to that. And you can see the box blur applied to the whole design. Click apply, and it's still, of course, live, so you can still modify it, rotate it, and all those sort of things. Now let's just undo that because I don't want that. Well, what you can also do with box blur, which is really useful, not every filter has this, but you can go to, now I'm just going to go to back to layers. Makes sense, I've got that selected, don't want the background, so that, actually I'm going to delete the background, so it's just, so you've just got the pattern layer, that's all you got. That's selected. What you can do, you can go to layer and new layer, filter layer, blur, and box blur, weirdly, is the second one this time. And took a bit of time just to come. And radius, and you can then apply box blur to this. You can see it's just attached to the pattern design. So you've got that attached to the pattern design. And what you can then do is you can go to blending modes. So you can go through difference, exclusion, and difference is quite a nice one. So difference, say, change that. Yeah, that's about nice. That's quite nice. And also what you can do, go to the move and go back to the pattern, and the pattern is still live. So as you see, as you move that, you've got the box blur still added to it. So quickly rotate that. And what else you can do, you can go to layer and you can go to rasterize. So rasterizes it, just becomes a solid layer again. It's not a pattern layer, it's just a pixel layer. What you can then do, of course, is you can, you know what, I'm going to go for a different selection. You can use also freehand selections as well. So you can go for that, go to layer and new pattern layer from selection, and you can see the design there. And again, go there and mirror. Got your mirror design there. And now you can see there's some transparency. So if I remove that, you can see design there, which maybe is not so good, but if you want that, of course, you can bring it back if you want. But again, what you can do, you can go to filters, blur, and box blur, apply that. Or go to, while it's selected, you can go to layer, new layer filter layer, blur, and box blur again. Apply that. And then, of course, what you can do, you can go through overlay, lighten, difference. Sometimes they're not so great, so but it's nice to just to run through maybe that one. That you can see a nice effect there. And of course, you can always go to pattern layer, and that's still normal. So you can always go to maybe go through them again. And you can see different effects that can be created very simply by it, and that's still live. So you can decide, you know what, I'm going to rotate that around, or use that, squeeze it, maybe shear it. And again, you can still continue to use and modify the box blur. Simply double click to bring the panel up again. And if you want to, you can go through that and change the settings like that. Saturation, color, luminosity, average, add, and so on and so on. Well, hope you found this tutorial of interest. Always adding new tutorials all the time about Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Publisher, Photoshop, Illustrator, and many others. Also, if you've got some questions, always please let me know in the comments. Always appreciated. Thank you much on that. Also, a dislike or like, always appreciated. Thank you.